Hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you today. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to give this keynote here today. I really want to talk today about AI and why that's the next major platform shift. And it's a real honor to be here with everyone. And no matter where you are, I hope you enjoy today. So look, my name's Yash Varma. I'm the founder and general partner at Empress Capital. Now, Empress Capital is a venture firm. We invest in early stage AI companies, primarily in Australia and New Zealand. And it's a real pleasure to be able to give you this keynote today. And I believe we're really at a pivotal point in the world. We're about to see massive change in creativity and productivity, which is going to bring around some great opportunities for those who embrace it. And so when we put our investor hat on, that's great. And when we look at what's going to change for founding companies, there's some massive opportunities ahead of us. So look, today I wanted to share with you my journey from being a founder to an angel investor to then becoming a VC that focuses on AI and why, AI is the next major platform, which is really going to shift the dial and really give us some exponential investment opportunities. So I've spent the last 25 years living between Australia, London, and Switzerland. And I've previously founded and exited a global software business called Sparks, which I'll touch on today briefly. I'm also a high-performance coach, and I work with founders and their teams to improve the way their productivity, their purpose around why they do what they do, along with helping them with their health and to bring that all along to help them succeed with the challenges of running an organization. So I'm really passionate about how we can use technology to improve the world and really have impact with that. And I believe we can really do that with many of the technologies we're going to talk about today. Look, I've studied BIT at UTS in Sydney, as well as more recently studied at Stanford in terms of continuing education around AI. So look, we invest really at the intersection of AI and humanity. And as I touched on, we believe that AI can really move humanity forward. And we believe investing in companies that can really do that. And there's some really exciting things we're seeing. So before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of the land where I'm videoing this from, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and I extend my respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. So have you ever felt like the world is changing faster than ever before? There might be a reason for that. That's because it is. And there are many exponential technologies that are going on that are causing this effect. So McKinsey outlined that in 1958, the average lifespan of a company was 61 years. Now, the most recent studies around this indicate that that's dropped to about 18 years. So we've gone from 61 years in 1958 to 18 years right now. And, they believe by 2027, 75% of the S&P 500 companies won't exist. And look, I predict that will be pretty much that, and if not more, because I feel like there's so much technology. If you can't keep pace with it, it's really changing the way we work and the opportunities there for new companies come in and disrupt and create whole new industries. So today I want to give you that perspective, of what I've seen, and equally, I think, give you the perspective of these major platforms. So I'd like us to sort of maybe start by looking back to 1996. I look at my own life. I was working in Canberra in Australia, and I was working in my office here with a relatively new company called Netscape. I was a consultant, but working with those Netscape technologies. And Netscape was a relatively new company. It had just recently had a successful IPO, which actually set the model for what would be, the case in the coming few years. And some would argue that the IPO of Netscape was the beginning of, what we saw was the dot-com boom. And it was one of the first companies that started without, massive revenues in there, and there was a big step change that was going along. And that did lead to the dot-com bubble. And I see there's a lot of parallels with where we are today with most recent downturns. We had Mark Andreessen, who started Netscape, who's now the founder of Andreessen Horowitz, who was a prolific investor now and much success in that space. But it started with Netscape. And Mark was also famous for saying software is eating the world. And I would not disagree with that. For the last 20 years, software has been eating the world, and we've seen the impact that's had on our lives in the world and the opportunities from an investment point of view. I would argue now AI is eating software. And what we're about to see in the coming years is that this is going to be the next big step change, and I'll come on to that. So if we go back in a bit of history in my life, I got married in 1997. I always like to show people me with hair. My kids don't believe that I had hair. And much like Mark Andreessen as well, I guess, in that previous slide, he had hair. I want to make sure that you. So look, I moved to London in 97. I started my first business called Sparks. And we developed, global web-based solutions for organizations like Deutsche Bank and Philips. And we developed this off the back of the internet. And we had an abundance of opportunities. We had small teams of highly skilled developers who could develop solutions across the board. And our solutions were in use by hundreds of thousands of corporate users. And we were a very small team, but able to deliver a lot of value. We saw substantial growth and usage in the solutions that we developed. And we worked in an agile way where, we could no longer just use a waterfall method of developing, which proved to be very efficient and effective at delivering solutions that clients wanted. I also discovered, working this way, that I could work remotely. And so I had offices based in London and Scotland, and I lived in Australia or Switzerland. And it was really, what we're seeing now with COVID, where people are working remotely. I was doing that from the early 2000s and really found that there were some really important aspects to being able to work that way, but equally there were some advantages, namely also being able to, I have a young family, being able to work and be a father and be around them while still having a global business. And I think, this has really changed the way we work. But at the backbone of this was really our first platform shift, which was really the internet. And, this allowed us to really be connected globally for the first time. It gave us information that was accessible, and we really could run applications in the browser, so we could deploy solutions quickly. And it was a really big step change. It also spawned the big thing around e-commerce. And we had some downsides. We talked about privacy, viruses, and so forth. And so these also created sub-industries to deal with those problems as well. Now, there's some really significant startups that came out of that phase, and equally some incumbents. And so, people like Google, Amazon, PayPal, these organizations were born out of that first platform shift of the internet. One thing I would like to point out is Google and Amazon were not the only people in their space, but they were one of the few people that were using machine learning in those early days. And, that allowed Google to really use those algorithms to do a far better method of search. And that's why they dominated and continue to dominate. And we'll see if that's going to, kind of continue to happen in the future. So second platform shift, and I saw this in my business through to 2006, and was really around cloud and SaaS. And we saw how, the ability to have cloud and scalable solutions allowed people to develop cost-effective solutions, flexible, allowed for innovation with small teams, which spawned a whole heap of new SaaS unicorns. And we've seen, what that looks like. Downside, once again, is around privacy and security, dependency on these network providers. But it did really provide a great platform for innovation and for organizations to develop these scalable, highly scalable solutions, which we're seeing even today. So big players, big startups in this phase was really Salesforce, Atlassian, ServiceNow, and each of these have built products that are platforms in themselves. And so we have unicorns on unicorns in that space, which is really amazing to see. And it shows the power of that software as a service. We have incumbents. AWS was born out of this phase. We see what a massive business that is for Amazon. Equally, Azure and Google Cloud, came out of those times as well. And we still have those today. And, as I've touched on, these are the stepping stones to get to where we are today. And I think it's really important we understand the significance of these things to where we go in the future. The third major platform shift I wanted to touch on was really around mobile. And we all know about this, but that gave us the portability, the connectivity, access to real-time information, and the convenience. And so once again, this took us to another level of applications and ways to work. It created new business models. But once again, with those business models had some downsides, and those downsides equally have products that were developed to deal with them. So things around security, depends on wireless networks, and equally around costs. The costs of phones really have gone up quite a lot over the years to being really priced at almost the high-end computers and mobiles are at the same price point. So look, startups that came out of that are still around today, that have really grown through that phase and had massive growth, Uber, Stripe, many more. One of the incumbents, and I think this is a key point around these platform shifts, was where Apple was resurrected, the iPhone and the iPod. And in fact, I remember I had my iPod, the original iPod that was here. I remember when I moved to the UK and I had this. And, seeing this one device evolve into a mobile platform, which is still dominant today and gives Microsoft that leverage to be, one of the largest organizations in the world, if not the, off the back of their technology. So I just want to highlight how significant each one of these platform shifts has been for organizations. And, that's where we're going. There's going to be some more platform shifts that we are going to see today. So the fourth platform shift, social allowed that connectivity once more, but on a social sense, sharing information, entertainment, all of these things, and equally around commerce, social trust and selling within that environment. We've seen the impact and the massive growth that is for that. Downside, cyberbullying, addiction, privacy, all of these things, disinformation. We've seen how that's played out in elections in the US and elsewhere. Obviously, the big startups that have significant growth: Facebook, Snap, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, and each one of the startups in these space had significant growth, and we did have some incumbents, but those incumbents really had to acquire. And so when we look at what's happened in these periods for those startups, there's some real big opportunities, and so that brings us on to during my time, founding Sparks and then working, I started to angel invest, and we invested in some deep tech companies, quantum encryption, e-commerce space, and I also started to invest in some early stage listed companies. And one of my favorite companies, and one of the companies I'm still very passionate and bullish about, is a company that was using all of these platforms. They were using cloud, mobile. They had access to some of the social things that were there, but was not necessarily viewed as a technology company, and that was Tesla. And we saw that they created a whole new product category around electrification of vehicles, and their approach was starting from first principles, starting from software, and they have a long way to run from where they are now. And I've seen that massive growth in what they've been doing, and so we decided to back them based on this, as well as AI. And they have a significant investment in AI, and that's where they're going in terms of the way they have these algorithms. I've seen how this changes in terms of their driving algorithms, and the way that's evolved over the last 5 or 6 years, particularly when I came back to Australia. So been a big supporter. We've also seen how this is about energy around software, and the opportunity I see going forward is to have companies that can really innovate and create new product categories. And that's where we see the future. So 2022, I feel, is really deja vu. And, we've had, similar to when I started my first business, the dot-com bubble. We've had a bit of a bubble right now. But there's some great technologies that were being developed in the early 2000s, and we have much of that right now. And so, I returned to Australia. I started studying in terms of finance and starting a venture capital firm, and equally around AI. And I could see when I was studying at Stanford as well, the massive implications that this is going to have, not just now and the future. So I decided to start Empress Capital, our venture firm, and we have some really great opportunities that we've seen in the AI space. So why AI? Why is that the next platform shift? All of our research shows that AI is really going to be evolving over the next even now, but in the next 5 to 8 years is going to be really significant, creating new business models. We have a lot of research that shows this is going to grow at over 40% a year. So why is that? This is going to be as significant as the Industrial Revolution and the Agricultural Revolution in terms of moving humanity forward. And why is that? We can see that on many levels now, AI is outperforming humans. And so this is allowing us to do things that we've never been able to do before. And you're starting to see some of those things around writing and image recognition and even around video and comprehension. How's that happening? Well, look, the compute is getting better and better and more efficient. Using Moore's law, we can see that this is doubling quite frequently, as well as, this is creating larger models or language models, which I'll touch on, which are growing, every year. What does that mean also? It means that the cost to train is going down. And as that decline in cost happens, more and more people can afford to get involved and train more niche models, as well as get involved in this space. So the market size for this, as we see really globally, is going to be in the trillions. And, some of the things that were previously never possible are now coming into fruition now because of those advances that we've seen. And, you're starting to see that with some of the models, namely, there's a lot of hype around ChatGPT, which I'll touch on as well. But this is clearly showing that this is starting to happen and people are really being blown away by this. So what are those models? We've got a lot of models that are in place. And whilst many of you will have heard of the OpenAI models, there are many more models that aren't even listed in here that are going to have significant impact. And so, GPT-3 was in 2020, and there are many other models from Meta and Google, and some of the bigger companies are really generating these models. And we're really just at the very beginning of where we're going with this. So generative AI, obviously, this has been a talk of the town. And, in fact, I talked about this late last year around the implications of where this was headed. And, there's been a lot of hype, and it feels like, there was a lot of hype around Web3 and crypto previously. And, everyone added that to their investment thesis, and they got an uplift. And we feel AI is different. Sure, there is hype, but if you look at the uptake of, even for example, some of the things that are going on now, we've had millions of users take up these technologies in a very short period of time. And these transformer models are progressing very quickly. And so, we're really looking forward to seeing what the next incarnations of GPT-4 and some of the other models are going to be like. The one thing I would like to point out is, though, where we are right now is still very error prone. And so, things like these models can hallucinate and plagiarize. And some of the things have yet to be played out in terms of implications of where you train these data sets, things around privacy, things around equally around bias. And so these things need to be ironed out, and equally around safeguards around this. And, there are many things right now that we're seeing where people's, for example, their voices are being replicated without their permission. And we really haven't fully understood the implications of where this is going. I would say, though, it's only going to get better. And I think this is what's exciting about this. So look, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we see in the AI space, and that really is around streamlining existing processes around what we're doing and improving that. And a lot of people are already tackling these problems. And that is great. And we feel like, there'll be a lot of solutions in there. We actually believe that the biggest opportunity is in the other areas by creating new business models and starting from first principles. And when we look at what we're able to do with data and sensors, and we look at genomics and drug discovery, we look at what can happen in education. And there's really some opportunities to disrupt the whole way we've worked, because for many of these industries have been operating the same way for many decades, and even in some cases for hundreds of years. So what are we seeing? The generative AI stack, there's an application layer, as well as many of these models, and those are both open source models, which is really opening this up to a whole range of people, as well as some of the closed source models that we're seeing, in terms of OpenAI and other providers. We see that there's also model hubs, so things like Hugging Face and Replicate that are allowing for people and communities to come together to develop off. And equally, there's the infrastructure around cloud platforms with Azure and AWS that we're seeing. And there's equally things that are going on in the sort of compute hardware space to be able to increase that compute power, which we need to increase to be able to improve these models. So we also feel there's exponential technologies that are feeding into this cycle, which are going to really, like I say, step forward new ways of doing things. And those include, genome sequencing, robotics, blockchain, and so forth. So there's this perfect thing happening with these multiple technologies that are going to move us forward like we've never seen before. Generative AI, we look at what that looks like. So that means being able to generate text, code, image, speech, video, 3D, and many other things around music and so forth. And so creativity is going to be like we've never seen it before. And I'm already seeing that. And I have some friends that have now launched new businesses with creative agencies using this as the basis, and it's very exciting. And scary in some senses, and we really don't know what the implications and where this is going to be. But this is really augmenting almost every industry, from programming to music to architecture. And we have some investments in this space that are really going to change the way architectural design is done. Look, there's trend maps. There's many of these. This is a great one from Base 10. In all of these areas, so we can see how generative AI is already playing out. And we're going to start to see some clear winners in these spaces, and equally some niche applications, across the board. Now, I'm happy to share many of these things with you. If you reach out to me at the end of this, or jump into our deal room, I can contact me that way, or equally around, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. So, is it all hype? The interest in generative AI, particularly, has really soared. You can see there's quite a lot of deals that happened in 2022. And we expect the same thing to be happening in 2023. Obviously, some large valuations, particularly the OpenAI one with Microsoft putting a lot of money in there. And we can, see there's many other unicorns that are in the making. And this is just the beginning, as I was saying. And this is the opportunity. So look, the current focus has been really around that text, but there are plenty of other areas where there are many other opportunities, and really around that sort of operational side of things is where those platforms have raised the largest amount of money. But you can see, within gaming and legal, and there's plenty of gaps in the market that need to be filled. So what we're most excited about is, 2/3 of the funding has not yet occurred even. So the companies probably that are going to disrupt have not even been founded. And that's our role as a VC in this AI space, is that's what we're looking for. Those next unicorns and those companies that are going to grow, 20, 50, 100x. And we really feel like we are onto something when we're looking at this space. There is a lot of noise, but we feel we can sift through that. So, quite a lot of companies have not yet raised, and so we're really excited about that, and excited about that globally. Who will win? Look, there's lots of changes in different areas, and I'm more than happy to share our research around this with anyone that may be interested. So look, some sample applications that we're seeing right now: text to video, AI generated audio. It's actually pretty good. You should give it a try. The splash I was listening to earlier on today, and it was pretty funky. Equally, coding, things that we thought would be disrupted last, those technical and artistic adventures, or have been disrupted, quicker than we thought they would. And equally around summarization, I've seen quite a few applications of this in really niche areas around research or around, law, legal documents. And so there's going to be some really great applications to augment what we do. And people will have to decide to either really embrace this or be less efficient. And that's why we're saying productivity will increase significantly. And that's the opportunity. So look, we focus on 3 areas. And this is why we believe we're at a really great point. AI-based solutions. So some of the solutions that I touched on, and we have some portfolio companies that are really working in this space. And every day we're seeing new applications in this space. Equally on AI tools. Now, we believe that this market itself is maturing and will continue to mature. And so those tools to develop the solutions are equally gain some really big momentum and be used across the board and is a massive industry. Not unlike Atlassian and many other tool providers when developing web-based solutions. And the last part of this is we believe that there's AI infrastructure, and whether that be around compute or encryption or around optimizing the way we deploy solutions, there's a whole range of solutions that are yet to be built that we feel are going to really grow in the coming years. And look, the simpler it gets on the front end, often the more complicated it is at the back end. And it's going to mirror a lot of what we've seen with the cloud and the internet. And so the infrastructure side of this thing should not be underestimated. So moats, I mean, what is also happening is these tools and solutions are becoming more and more accessible, easier to develop with you used to have a team of data scientists. Now this is going to change to be able to have more and more people who are able to develop solutions. So what makes it unique if anyone can do it? And so we've done some real deep analysis on what this is. But in a nutshell, it's around that proprietary data, unique workflows, getting your application out there, speed to market, and gaining that community and brand. And so, look, we really look closely at that, look at the team. We use a lot of, we've got a really experienced team at Empress who have worked with some of the largest organizations in the world, worked with people like Richard Branson, but worked with, some of the really leading organizations to grow and understand what that scaling looks like. So we really look closely at that team. And at that early stage, that's why we think this is the point to be able to invest in those teams and help. And that's what we look to do. And particularly around that technology as well. We have some really great advisors that come in, as well as we look at, those moats that we believe need to be there. So look, we feel now is the time, and we would love to kind of talk about this more at Emergence if you're going to be there. And equally, we'd love you to reach out to us on Crisp. Here's our deal room. You can see up there. And we'd really love it. We feel like, AI is the future, and AI is the next major platform shift that is going to give you, great opportunities from an investment point of view. And we'd love to be able to help you in that space. Please do reach out. I'd love to chat to you, and our team would as well. So thank you so much today. I hope you have a great rest of your day today and the rest of the year. And we look forward to seeing you at Emergence very soon. Thanks very much.